My alien nurse went into a sudden mating frenzy, while the medical wing of Station ES9 was quieter than usual. Soft lights glowed along the curved white walls, and machines hummed in steady rhythms that matched breathing and heartbeats. Outside the wide observation window, stars drifted slowly, distant and calm, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Lieutenant Aaron Cole lay on a recovery bed, his left arm wrapped in a transparent medical brace. Dark bruises marked his ribs, and faint burns traced his shoulder where alien plasma had grazed him during the evacuation mission 2 days earlier. He should have been dead. Everyone on the station knew it. The only reason he was not was because humans were stubborn, and sometimes stubbornness was enough. Beside him stood Nurse Cellari. She was not human. Her species, the Virelian, were tall and slender, with pale blue skin that shimmered faintly under light. Fine bioluminescent lines ran along her neck and arms, dim at rest, brighter when emotions stirred. Her eyes were large and dark, reflecting data screens as she moved with calm precision. Cellari had been assigned to Aaron since his arrival. She spoke little, but when she did, her voice was smooth and controlled. Virelians valued composure above all else. Emotional restraint was not just cultural, it was biological. That was why what happened next made no sense. Cellari adjusted the scanner over Aaron's chest, her movements slightly slower than before. Her bioluminescent lines flickered, barely noticeable at first. She paused, her fingers hovering in the air as if she had forgotten the next step. Aaron noticed. "You okay?" he asked, his voice rough but gentle. Cellari did not answer right away. Her eyes narrowed, then widened. The light patterns along her skin brightened from soft blue to a sharper cyan. "I am functioning," she said, though her tone lacked its usual certainty. The medical scanner chirped, flashing yellow instead of green. Across the room, a wall monitor suddenly spiked with unfamiliar readings. Hormonal surges, neural acceleration, stress markers climbing fast. Cellari took a step back, then another. Her breathing became shallow, quick. The lights along her arms pulsed in uneven waves. Aaron pushed himself up slightly. Pain flared, but concern outweighed it. "Cellari," he said, "should I call someone?" Her head snapped toward him. For the first time since he had met her, her composure cracked. "No," she said too quickly. "Do not summon others." Her hands clenched into fists, fingers trembling. The bioluminescence along her throat flared brighter, casting soft light across the walls. That was when the station alarms activated, not the loud emergency sirens. These were internal medical alerts, silent to most but instantly visible to staff. Doors along the corridor sealed with a smooth hiss. Outside the room, footsteps hurried, voices rising in alarmed tones. Cellari staggered. Aaron swung his legs off the bed without thinking. "Hey," he said, steadying himself on the railing. "Sit down, you look like you're about to pass out." She backed away from him, pressing herself against the wall. "This is unacceptable," she whispered. "This state must not be witnessed." The lights on her skin blazed. The door slid open just enough for Dr. Atren to peer inside. The senior physician was a thick-scaled Corthan, his eyes narrowing as he took in the scene. "Clear the room," Atren barked into his comm. "Virelian response protocol, level red." Cellari let out a soft, broken sound. "No," she said. "Please." Atren ignored her. "Nurse Cellari, you are experiencing an onset condition. You will submit to sedation immediately." Aaron frowned. "Onset of what?" Atren glanced at him, irritation flashing. "Human, remain on your bed." Aaron did not move. Cellari slid down the wall, knees folding beneath her. She wrapped her arms around herself, light rippling wildly across her skin. Atren's voice dropped. "The Virelian mating frenzy." The words hit the room like a shockwave. Aaron blinked. "Her what?" "It is a biological emergency," Atren said sharply. "Rare, volatile, and dangerous. Virelians in this state lose regulation. They must be isolated." "That's not what this looks like," Aaron said. "She looks scared." Cellari's eyes flicked to him. Fear. Yes, that was exactly it. Security officers appeared at the door, carrying restraint fields and injectors. Other nurses watched from behind glass panels, whispering in alien tongues. Cellari shook her head weakly. "I have followed protocol my entire life," she said. "I did not invite this." The lights along her chest pulsed faster. Aaron felt something tighten in his chest that had nothing to do with injury. "Doctor," he said, keeping his voice calm, "maybe we should slow down. You're talking like she's a bomb about to go off." Atren's jaw tightened. "Human emotions are irrelevant here." Aaron took a step toward Selari. Immediately, alarms intensified. "Lieutenant Cole," Atren snapped. "Step back," Selari gasped. The moment Aaron moved closer, her breathing slowed just a little. The chaotic light pattern stuttered, then steadied for half a second. Aaron noticed, so did Atren. "What did you do?" the doctor demanded. "I just walked," Aaron said. "I didn't touch her." Selari looked up at him, confusion mixing with relief. "Your presence," she whispered. "It is stabilizing." The room went silent. That was not possible. According to galactic medical law, humans were classified as high-risk companions for most species. Their hormones were unpredictable. Their emotional signals were considered overwhelming, yet the data did not lie. The spikes on the monitor dipped slightly. Atren stared at the screen, then at Selari, then at Aaron. "This contradicts everything we know," he said slowly. Selari pressed her palm against her chest, light dimming from blinding cyan to a softer glow. "I am still in danger," she said, "but I am thinking clearly again." Security hesitated, uncertain. Aaron crouched slowly, careful not to make sudden movements. Pain screamed through his ribs, but he ignored it. "You don't look dangerous to me," he said. "You look like someone who needs help," Selari swallowed. "If the council learns of this, I will be reassigned, or worse." Aaron's jaw tightened. Humans knew that tone, the fear of being erased quietly. "Then don't let them treat you like a problem," he said. "Let them treat you like a patient." Atren hesitated for a long moment. The station's medical code had no instructions for this scenario. Finally, he lowered his injector. "Observation only," he said reluctantly. "For now." The doors remained sealed. The galaxy held its breath. And in the center of it all, a human and an alien nurse sat across from each other, neither understanding yet that this moment would change far more than one life. The sealed medical room felt smaller with every passing minute. Outside the transparent barrier, more staff gathered. Some watched with open fear, others with curiosity. No one spoke loudly. News had already spread through Station ES9 that a Virelian nurse was in a forbidden biological state, and a human was still inside the room with her. Dr. Atren stood stiff near the door, arms crossed over his thick chest. His eyes kept moving between Selari, Aaron, and the floating medical display. The numbers were wrong. Everything about them was wrong. Selari sat on the floor, her back against the wall. The light along her skin was no longer flashing wildly, but it was far brighter than normal. It moved in slow waves now, like breathing. Her hands rested on her knees, fingers still trembling. Aaron remained crouched a few steps away from her. He kept his posture open, his hands visible, just like he had been trained during first contact scenarios. His injuries screamed at him to lie back down, but instinct told him not to move. He had seen fear before, real fear. This was it. "I am maintaining control," Selari said softly, as if afraid that raising her voice might shatter something fragile. "But the state has not ended. Safety is not guaranteed, even outside this state, Doctor. Her neurochemical balance is seeking alignment." The room felt colder. Aaron took a slow breath. "Okay, but you said this isn't about desire, it's survival. It attempts to stabilize through connection." When she spoke again, her voice was steady, but there was pain beneath it. "For centuries, my people believed this state to be shameful, dangerous, uncontrollable. We named it after reproduction, because that was easier than admitting fear. But enough," Atren noticed. "How," he demanded, "is the human affecting this? Your presence alone sends grounding cues. This contradicts established galactic medical consensus." They were already recording. Atren noticed and cursed under his breath. "We cannot keep this contained," he said. "Protocol demands escalation." "You're doing fine." Selari's voice trembled. "If the council takes control, I will be restrained, sedated, reassigned to a reproductive ward." Instead, he turned to the console and pulled up an ancient Virelian medical archive. Dusty, forgotten, restricted. "What are you doing?" Selari asked. "Looking for the truth," Atren replied. The screen filled with old symbols, long removed from modern training. Atren read silently, his expression changing with every line. "This was known," he said slowly. "Long ago, the state was once treated with support, not isolation. Before fear became law. You are asking me to challenge the council. I will document this as an experimental stabilization scenario," Atren said. "Temporary, fragile." Celari's light gradually softened, shifting to a gentle glow. She straightened her posture, no longer curled in on herself. "I can think clearly now," she said, "but the state persists. It will return if disrupted." "It depends on trust." Staff slowly dispersed, confused and uneasy. Word spread anyway. A human had calmed a Viralian frenzy without restraints, without drugs, without fear. Across the station, old assumptions cracked. And deep within Celari's biology, something long suppressed began to heal, not because of protocol, but because for the first time in her life, someone stayed. Time moved differently inside the sealed medical room. Minutes stretched into something heavier, thicker, as if the air itself had weight. The soft hum of machines became a constant background sound, steady and calm, like a heartbeat that refused to panic. Aaron sat on the edge of his bed now, his injured arm supported by the brace. He had not been allowed to leave it again, but he had turned the bed so he could face Celari. He kept his movements slow, careful. Every small action felt important. Celari sat across from him on a low medical stool. Her posture was straighter than before, but tension still lived in her shoulders. The light along her skin was steady, a gentle glow instead of wild flashes, still brighter than normal, still not over. Dr. Atren moved quietly around the room, adjusting scanners and taking readings. He spoke little. When he did, it was mostly to the machines, not to them. Outside the room, the station continued to function, but something had changed. Even without alarms, everyone could feel it. This was no longer just a medical case. It was becoming a question. Celari broke the silence. "When I was young," she said, her voice calm but distant, "we were taught to fear this condition more than death. We were told it was necessary. What you are doing, staying calm, present, it goes against everything we were taught about humans. Your emotions are said to be chaotic." Slowly but consistently, Aaron leaned forward slightly. "Hey, focus on me, you're safe right now." "Dr. Atren," said Counselor Vale, "this situation has exceeded acceptable limits. Release the nurse for council control. Human presence increases long-term risk." "I'm speaking as someone who's actually here. Your species lacks understanding of Viralian biology. We will allow observation to continue, temporarily." "I've been yelled at by worse." At one point, Celari's light surged again, stronger than before. Her hands trembled. "It's returning," she said, fear creeping into her voice. Aaron stood slowly, moving only when she nodded permission. He stopped a safe distance away. "You're not alone," he said. "Tell me what you're feeling." The monitor dipped again. Atren stared openly now, no longer hiding his amazement. "This is not suppression," he murmured. "This is regulation. We were never given permission to be supported. This will not stay quiet much longer. Then we make it clear that separation is the risk. Not to enforce fear." Celari closed her eyes, her light now a calm, steady glow. "For the first time," she said softly, "I do not feel broken." And somewhere deep within Station ES9, centuries of misunderstanding began to crack, not with violence or rebellion, but with patience, presence, and one human who refused to walk away. The review panel arrived sooner than expected. The medical wing lights dimmed slightly as authority fields activated throughout Station ES9. That alone was enough to make many staff uneasy. Authority fields were never used unless the council wanted absolute control. Inside the sealed room, Celari felt it immediately. Her bioluminescent lines brightened, then flickered. A low tremor ran through her hands. "They are close," she said quietly. Aaron noticed the change at once. He shifted forward, careful of his injuries, keeping his voice calm. "You're still here. Nothing's changed between us." Dr. Atren checked the readings. The stabilization curve wavered but did not spike. "Hold steady," he said, more to himself than anyone else. "This environment is still viable." The door interface glowed. Counselor Vale's voice echoed through the room, no longer requesting permission. "Dr. Atren, unlock the chamber." Atren did not move. "Doctor," Vale repeated, sharper now. Atren straightened his posture. "The patient remains under controlled medical observation. Forced removal at this stage presents significant risk." Silence followed, heavy, calculated. Then the door began to unlock anyway. Celari's breathing quickened. The light along her skin surged brighter than it had since the first episode. Aaron stood, ignoring the sharp pain in his ribs. He placed himself slightly in front of her, not touching but clearly present. "Selari," he said, steady and slow. "Look at me." She did. Her breathing faltered, then slowed. The door slid open. 3 council members entered, flanked by security. Their forms were different species, different shapes, but all carried the same cold authority. Data tablets hovered beside them, recording everything. Vale stepped forward. "This experiment ends now." "It is not an experiment," Atren said firmly. "It is treatment." Vale's eyes shifted to Selari. "Nurse Selari, you are ordered to submit to council care." Selari tried to stand. Her legs shook. Erin spoke before she could answer. "Counselor, with respect, you're making this worse." Vale turned his gaze to him. "Human, you are not authorized," Selari gasped. The lights along her body flared wildly, spilling color across the walls. Her posture collapsed inward as if fighting an invisible pressure. Aaron did not move closer, but his voice stayed calm. "You're safe. Breathe with me." The monitors screamed warnings. Atren stepped forward. "Do you see what you're doing? Your presence alone is destabilizing her." Vale hesitated, watching the data. The numbers were impossible to ignore. "This contradicts all established." "Then your establishment is flawed," Atren said. "Remove the authority field." Vale looked uncertain for the first time. Aaron continued speaking softly, slowly, grounding every word. "You're not in trouble. No one's taking you away." Solari's breathing began to slow again. The light dimmed from blinding cyan to a trembling glow. The council members exchanged glances. One of them, an elder scholar species, leaned closer to the data. "The human is acting as a regulator." Vale's crest dimmed slightly. "That classification does not exist." "It may now," the scholar replied. Solari straightened a little, her voice shaking but clear. "I am not dangerous. I am injured, and I am healing." Vale looked at her closely. "You claim this state is not a frenzy?" Solari met his gaze. "I claim it is recovery, one we were taught to fear." Atren activated a projection, filling the air with ancient Virelian records, images of calm rooms, supported patients. "Trusted companions. This knowledge was erased," Atren said, "by policy, not science." The room fell silent. Vale's voice lowered. "If this is true, it changes everything." Aaron exhaled slowly. "Yeah, it usually does." The authority field faded. Immediately, Solari's light stabilized further, settling into a soft, steady glow. Her shoulders relaxed. The council members stepped back, no longer crowding her. Vale nodded slowly. "Observation will continue with reduced interference." Solari let out a shaky breath. "Thank you." The council withdrew, leaving the room quieter than it had been in days. Atren sank into a chair, exhausted. "That was closer than I would have liked." Aaron lowered himself back onto the bed, wincing. "You did good, Doc." Atren looked at him seriously. "So did you." Hours passed again, but this time felt different, lighter. Solari moved more freely, standing, stretching, testing her balance. Her light remained calm. "The pressure is fading," she said in wonder. "I feel clear." Atren checked the readings. "The state is resolving on its own." Aaron smiled faintly. "Told you we'd get there." Solari looked at him, emotion shining in her eyes. "You stayed when leaving would have been easier," he shrugged. "That's kind of our thing." Later, when the room finally unlocked fully, staff entered carefully, no restraints, no injectors, just curiosity and cautious respect. Word spread fast. A Virelian had recovered without isolation. A human had helped by doing nothing more than staying calm and present. Across Station ES9, conversations changed. Training manuals were questioned. Old fears were spoken aloud for the first time. Solari stood by the observation window watching the stars. "My people will resist this truth," she said softly. "Fear is comfortable." Aaron joined her at a respectful distance. "Yeah, but comfort isn't the same as right," she nodded. "You have altered the path of my life." He shook his head. "You did that yourself, I just didn't get in the way." As the stars drifted by, the station moved forward, not just through space, but toward something new, something better. And the galaxy, though it did not yet know it, had taken another step away from fear and toward understanding. The medical wing of Station ES9 no longer felt tense. The alarms were silent. The authority fields were gone. The air itself seemed lighter, as if the station had finally released a breath it had been holding for generations. Solari stood on her own feet, fully upright, her posture relaxed for the first time since the onset of the state. The bioluminescent lines along her skin glowed softly, no longer unstable or erratic. They moved in slow, calm patterns, responding naturally to her thoughts instead of fighting them. Dr. Hren reviewed the final readings, his eyes wide with disbelief and something close to pride. "It is complete," he said quietly. "The state has resolved." "I feel whole," she said. "Not suppressed, not corrected, just myself." The data is undeniable. This was not a frenzy, it was recovery. Observers from multiple species attended, watching from balconies and screens across the station. Scifi stood before them, no longer as a patient, but as a witness. Her voice did not shake. "For my entire life," she said, "I was taught that this condition made me dangerous. That it erased reason, that isolation was mercy. And when support was given, not fear, it ended. But because he treated me as a person." The forgotten Virelian texts glowed in the air beside modern medical scans. "This knowledge was suppressed," Hren said, "not because it was wrong, but because it challenged control." Questions turned into discussions, discussions into realizations. By the end of the session, a formal declaration was issued. The condition would be renamed. No longer a frenzy, no longer a taboo, it would be classified as a biological recovery response. And isolation would no longer be the default treatment. Across the station, the announcement spread like a shockwave. In medical bays, in crew quarters, in training halls, Virelians listening from distant systems wept openly. Others sat in stunned silence. Many felt anger. Many felt relief. Fear, once treated as law, had been challenged. Aaron was discharged the next day. As he walked through the station corridors, still stiff from injuries, he noticed the looks. Not fear, not awe, curiosity, respect. A group of alien medics whispered as he passed. "That's him," one said, "the human who stabilized a Virelian without force." "I wanted to thank you properly," she said. "You already did," Aaron replied. "You stood up." "That's what humans do when something feels wrong." "I will be joining a new medical initiative," Scifi said. "One focused on supportive treatment across species." "Of course we have." Humans were reclassified, not just as deathworlders, not just as soldiers or survivors, but as emotional stabilizers, a species capable of grounding others simply by being present. Some found that idea frightening, others found it hopeful. On a distant Virelian world, a young trainee watched Scifi's testimony and felt fear loosen its grip for the first time. On another station, a medical officer hesitated before ordering restraints and chose patience instead. Small changes, quiet changes, but powerful ones. Aaron leaned back in his seat as stars streaked past, unaware of how many lives would be touched by a choice he had not even thought of as brave. He had simply stayed, and sometimes that was enough to change the galaxy. Wow.